Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Laura Tibbetts in the system office. We have the live stream going, and so I'm going to turn it over to Chair Scott to begin the meeting. Chair Scott, are you with us? Okay.
There we go.
There you go. All right.
Welcome to the Telephonic Planning and Construction Committee meeting for Tuesday, May the 11th, 2021. The time is 11 o'clock a.m. Notice of the meeting was provided to the Secretary of State as required by the Texas Government Code. Please note that audio of this meeting is being broadcast live. I'd like to begin by reminding everyone to please mute your phones unless you need to speak. Laura, would you perform the roll call for the regents?
Sure. We have Chair Scott, Regent Montaigne.
Here.
Thank you. Regent Austin.
Here.
Good morning. I think we have Regent Flores.
Present.
Thank you. And Regent Harrell.
Here. Good morning.
Thank you. Do we have any other regents on the call?
I can't get the video.
All right.
Okay, Laura, thank you. Can we now have the roll call for the system administration representatives?
Sure. Chancellor McCall.
Here.
Daniel Harper.
Here.
Do we have Vice Chancellor Herrera?
Here.
Sean Cunningham.
Here.
Dr. Hayek.
Here.
And do we have Peter Moss?
Here.
Thank you. Do we have any other system staff on the call? All right, thank you.
Laura, I think somebody on your end has turned off the video for maybe for several.
Yeah, I think we're having to. We're getting quite a bit of background, but just one second. Chair Scott, you can turn your video off. No one needs to have their video screen on if you know how to do that. And we're just going to have the one presentation and presenter so that you all can watch it. But with that, I'll move on to the system component roll call, starting with Lamar University.
Ken Evans, Jeremy Altop, Catherine Miller.
Thank you, Dr. Evans. Sam Houston.
Elisa White.
And Carlos Hernandez.
Thank you, Carlos. Sil Ross.
Hi, this is Pete Gallego.
Good morning. Thank you. Texas State.
Bob Jacob is also here.
Oh, sorry, Bob. Thank you. Texas State.
Denise Trouth here, along with Eric Algo and Lisa Lloyd.
Thank you. LIT.
Carrie Mix and Miranda Phillips.
Thank you, Dr. Mix. Lamar State College Orange.
Tom Johnson, Mary Wickland, Wendy Elmore.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. And Lamar State College Port Arthur.
Betty Renard and Mary Wickland.
Thank you. That concludes roll call.
Okay, thank you again, Laura. Daniel and I had an opportunity to review the agenda prior to this meeting. At this time, I'll turn the meeting over to Daniel, who will present the Planning and Construction Committee agenda. Daniel, please use the board book pages as you go through your presentation.
Yes, sir. So today's agenda, we have 4 items: the annual capital improvements program, the Sol Ross master plan presentation, our quarterly planning and construction report, and a few additions to the current capital improvements program. The first item is the TSUS Capital Improvement Program, and it can be found on page 177 of the board materials. The CIP is our 6-year forecast of capital project needs when funding has been identified for new construction and renovation projects above $1 million. If approved, the CIP will be $1.2 billion, which is equal to the current CIP, and which half are funded with tuition revenue bond proceeds. If you turn to page 180, you'll find a summary by institution, by year, and then on the following pages by funding source. The CIP includes $717 million of tuition revenue bond projects, which, if goes well, will be on the House floor today. $140 million of projects funded with higher education funds. These are mainly smaller renovation projects. $30 million funded through revenues from auxiliary enterprises such as parking and housing. $96 million to be financed through the TSUS revenue financing system. $160 million to be funded through gifts. Examples are the Texas State Music Building. At Sol Ross, there's the Borderland Research Institute. And at Lamar, there's the Performing Arts Center. And then $71 million to be funded through other, which is predominantly projects where the specific funding source has not been identified. A high-level detail of the projects planned can be found on page 184 of the materials. Chairman Scott, does the committee wish to refer this item to the full board?
Do I hear any objection to moving this item to the full board? Without objection, we'll move the item to the full board. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So the next item is the presentation of the Sol Ross State University Campus Master Plan 2021 to 2031. This is an informational item and will not be considered for a vote today. At this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Friesen Nichols, who developed the master plan. Mr. Como?
Hey, thank you, Daniel. And good morning to everyone. My name is Shad Como. I am serving as the project manager for the campus master plan. I also have with me on the call today, Gail Ferry Catalinas, who served as the project planner and project designer. So we'll go through this presentation. And if you have any questions after, we'll take those questions, and we'll also ask the president if he has any words he'd like to share following the presentation.
All right, I believe I have successfully shared the screen. Are you seeing it now?
Yes. Thanks,
Okay.
Gail.
Mhm.
So this is the agenda. We'll walk through this presentation. These are things that we'll cover here. But let's dive into the process and the input. So we went through a phased approach that started with gathering information at the beginning of the process, where we had a series of focus groups and surveys to get as much information as possible that helped to develop the analysis and other conceptual thoughts and recommendations in the plan. Throughout this process, we went back with the leadership and others to make sure that we were covering the right things and that we had the recommendations in place. You'll see here on the screen a series of bullets. Won't go through all of these, also a timeline as well. But we essentially kicked off the project in January of 2020, right before COVID. So it was good that we were able to be there in person, visit the campus, and meet with the various stakeholders. Once COVID kind of settled down a little bit, we were able to get back into the process with various assessments. And particularly in the fall of last year, we were able to develop some or go through some charrettes and other information that helped us to formalize the recommendations. We did a survey where we had 103 students and 105 faculty members take the survey, which yielded some great information that helped us to look at not only their perspective, but what some of those opportunities they saw as opportunities and things that would encourage them to spend more time on the campus. As I mentioned earlier, those stakeholder interviews, we met with these various groups and departments. We were there about 3 days, had a series of meeting with those various groups. Again, identifying some concerns, but also some opportunities as well. As I mentioned, the analysis of existing conditions really helped us to get a gauge on where the campus exists today in terms of its physical environment and layout. And so we looked at that. We looked at the functionality of the campus. As you can see here, it is laid out very well in terms of the academic core associated with one another, as well as the residential. And you'll see some of those other recreation and athletic facilities. I'm sure many of you have been to this area, and so you know that the main campus, there are also some other components that are a little distance from the campus. And so we looked at not only the edges and the entries, but also the circulation, which was very important in terms of vehicular and pedestrian circulation. Open space as well, beautiful campus, beautiful backdrop. And one of the things that we did here in the survey was those opportunities for outdoor spaces and lounge spaces. So make sure that we kept that intact. As I mentioned, the travel distance, somewhat of a challenge here in terms of if a student is on the main campus, get into the Rodeo Center complex is a little drive. But again, showing that radius and that distance from the main campus. And so all of the information that we pulled together from the stakeholder interviews, the surveys, we look at those opportunities and constraints, which helps to develop and give us that foundation for the recommendation. We also did a utilization analysis, and I won't go through this information in any detail, but essentially the takeaway from the utilization study is that there is some capacity in terms of the various facilities and academic spaces there. And so as enrollment increases, there is capacity at the Alpine campus as well as the satellite campuses as well in terms of classroom space as well as lab space. So with that, I'm gonna let Gail, oh, sorry about the enrollment, also looked at the enrollment. And there is a slight increase in enrollment over the next 10 years at the Alpine campus, as well as the locations in the Rio Grande area as well. So again, that's related to the capacity of the utilization, but it does show a slight increase over time. So I'm gonna let Gail highlight some recommendations from the master plan.
Thanks, Chad. So as part of the planning process, we identified a series of guiding principles to help steer the effort and really drive where recommendations are located on the different campuses. We have quite a few recommendations, so I'm going to go kind of quickly for the sake of time. And if there's any questions, we can come back to them at the end. On main campus, we have a series of 19 projects recommended. These include things like an expanded library, which you'll see in a moment, as well as a new black box theater. This is a rendering of the library expansion. It's a rooftop patio that has indoor-outdoor gathering spaces. It can be used for recruiting events or fundraising activities and really leverages the beautiful natural surroundings in Alpine. There's some renovations targeted for the University Center, and there is a residence across the street from the university, which is currently proposed to be deeded to Sul Ross. And once that is accepted, that can be used as a temporary residence for visiting artists and writers. There's an ongoing expansion at the Museum of the Big Bend. And as enrollment continues to grow and use of the campus expands, Mountainside does provide a future development opportunity sort of in the long term. The existing observatory on campus is recommended to be relocated to a more prominent location. And the existing industrial technology and arts building is recommended to be renovated and repurposed as solely an arts facility. There's also a bus barn recommended near the physical plant. The central heating and cooling plant does need some renovations, and there are a few cottages on campus that are currently not being used. These could be renovated and restored as office space, which could be rented to different foundations and organizations. The swimming pool complex, this project does involve removing the existing swimming pool and facility, developing a new facility that is slightly larger to allow for a larger indoor pool. And there is space for an outdoor pool as well, which you see here is this dashed line. If the outdoor pool facility is not pushed forward, then this could be an expanded outdoor gathering space for students and faculty. Adjacent to that, we have the Graves Pierce complex, the northwest and northeast corridors, which currently wrap around the building that's labeled M here. These are targeted for demolition, and the southwest corridor would be renovated to be used as additional office space as needed. At the Gallego Center, athletics are a big drive at Sul Ross, and there is a need for some new facilities to better support them. So there is a recommended expansion, which would include a weight room and additional locker rooms as some of the area. In terms of landscaping in general, Alpine is beautiful. This campus is really wonderful, but we're looking for as many opportunities as possible to continue adding native landscaping and increasing the shade. So this is within existing parking lots, as well as some targeted gathering areas like the amphitheater and near the library. We have some areas that we're focusing for outdoor seating near the University Center, the Lobo Fountain, and near the swimming pool complex. This is a rendering that shows what it could look like in the central mall near the Lobo Fountain and the University Center, really focusing on providing space for group gatherings as well as individual use of this really wonderful shaded space in the center of campus. There's a recommended loop trail. It's about 1.5 miles around the main campus and could also ultimately connect over to the Range Animal Sciences area. So this could provide a non-vehicular opportunity for students if they wanted to commute back and forth. And then we are reconfiguring a drop-off near the library. This is a project that was in the works prior to the campus master planning effort. Over at the Range Animal Science Center area, we have 7 projects. These include a new industrial technology building on the north side of the highway, an expansion of the RAS Center on the south side of the highway. This could potentially incorporate that Borderlands Research Institute that was mentioned earlier. We have some new additional rodeo barns going in to accommodate an expanded program out here. And then also expanding the rodeo complex itself, which you can see a little better here in this rendering. So we have an expanded arena, concessions, ticketing, and restroom facility. We have some parking reconfiguration here, formalized and informalized overflow parking. And you can see those additional rodeo barns, the RAS Center expansion, industrial technology across the street. And you can also see kind of in the distance here, some hike and bike trails. So this is about 2 miles of trails, which would allow students and faculty to really get out and enjoy all of the land that Sul Ross owns out here in Alpine. We have a few enhanced entry signage areas on either side of the highway near the RAS complex, and then working to provide an improved pedestrian crossing facility across the highway. Down in the athletics area, we have 2 primary projects, improving the facilities at the track and field area, and over near the soccer and baseball complex, adding some locker rooms, some covered seating, and a parking area. This property that is located south of the highway is owned by Sul Ross, but not currently programmed. So as part of the master planning effort, we've looked at providing this as a small park-like area, which could have community gardens, an outdoor fitness station. We have a pedestrian bridge providing access from main campus to this area. And then we have some area targeted for satellite parking for the rodeo. Up at the Coconut Lodge area, which is another area owned by Sul Ross, this is another project that was in the works prior to the campus planning effort and looking to restore some of the facilities and really just enhance this campus to provide greater recreational and cultural benefit for the university and the Alpine community. And then the last project is looking at the Rio Grande College area. As part of the effort, we identified a high-level program for a standalone facility to serve these 3 campuses. It would be located either in Del Rio, Eagle Pass, or Uvalde. It would be equipped for distance learning and have associated parking. And there may be some partnership opportunities with the Southwest Texas Junior College. And this is just a rendering of what that could potentially look like depending on where it is located. So those are all of the projects. Before opening it for questions and comments, I wanted to see if President Gallego had anything that he wanted to add.
Well, thank you. I'm super excited. You know, as a student at Sul Ross, I used to look around and dream of the things I could do if I had an opportunity to change what the campus looked like. And thanks to the board and the chancellor, I actually have had that opportunity, and working with Fries and Nicholas has been an absolute pleasure in talking through how we could better use our campus, how we can better optimize our campus for those additional students that we're planning on getting. And so far, our efforts seem to be paying off. So I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm really excited about this master plan. I think it really maximizes the potential of our campus to attract new students. It highlights those things that are our strong points. And frankly, it helps us in those areas where we needed help. So I'm super excited about it. And I am, again, grateful not only to the Regents for giving me this opportunity to actually live a dream, but also, and to the Chancellor, but also to Vice Chancellor Harper and Fries and Nichols for working with me through all of this. And I look forward to a more robust conversation with the board when the plan is actually adopted.
Thank you, President Gallego. Chairman Scott, this concludes our presentation on the master plan. And at this time, we can, if there's no questions, we can move on to the next informational item.
Are there any questions from anyone on the committee? Okay, I want to thank Chad and Gail. This was a very nice presentation. And President Gallegos, we are happy you are there, and we appreciate your hard work.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Let's move on, Daniel.
Yes, sir. So the next item is also informational and again, does not require a vote. It is the quarterly planning and construction report, which can be found on page 205 of the materials. An executive summary. It includes the executive summary, an overview of all the projects above 1 million and a short summary of them. If you turn to page 207, you can see the chart that outlines our planning and construction activities going back to May of 2016. And you can again see how the construction projects have leveled off in the post TRB world. And I guess at this time, I'll open the floor to any questions.
Okay, if there aren't any questions, Daniel, let's move on to the fourth item.
Yes, sir. And the last item is one consent agenda item found on page 254. This adds 4 projects to the existing capital improvements program, and then increases the cost or the total project cost of one project, the Gibbs Ranch Lab at Sam Houston State University. So it includes adding at Lamar University, the biology lab renovation and the mechanical system upgrades, which is HVAC, and that's going to be funded with federal stimulus dollars. At Texas State, it adds the HVAC upgrades for the Supple Science Building. And at Port Arthur, adds the Commercial Driver Education Center, which is funded with an EDA grant. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation, and again, open the floor to any questions.
Very good. Are there any questions for Daniel? Daniel, as always, your data is really well put together, and we appreciate it. Are there any objections to our moving item 4, additional capital improvements, to the full board at next week's meeting? Hearing no objection, item number 4 will also be moved to the full agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this concludes the presentation for the Planning and Construction Committee.
Very good. Thanks everyone for calling in today. And we appreciated the presentation on the master plan for Sol Ross. Unless there's further discussion or questions, this concludes our telephone meeting today. For the record, the time is 11:25. I look forward to being with all of you next week. Have a good week. Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You.